Welcome to Glow's Kitchen. I'm Gloria Mezikofsky. Today I'd like to show you how to make a chocolate graham cracker pie. A lot of the recipes I make are from having watched my mom over the years. And I mean watched. That's a story for another time. But today I'm going to begin with this chocolate graham cracker pie, and the first thing to do is to take your graham crackers and put them in a little mini chopper. And what you need is some graham cracker crumbs and about 10 presses and you have it. Now these graham cracker crumbs are used to fill in the crust, and they're also used for the topping, as you will see shortly. So what I'd like to do, I want to move the chopper out of the way, and if you have some chunks, you'll notice that I either press them out or I'm going to put it through a strainer and they won't be used. But this is for later. Now what you need to do is make the first layer of crust. And you take 3 whole graham crackers, put it in the middle, and now you're going to have to start playing, and I have some pieces here, playing with the base like it's almost like a jigsaw puzzle. So I have some pieces that I've already cut out, and I'm going to show you how you can best cut this. Take a knife and very gently, it might not come out perfect, but very gently cut a piece into a triangle. And then what happens is you can fit it into the corners. And I remember my mom actually, she used maybe a flatter plate, but this has a little ridge to it, and it'll hold the pudding in very well. So you keep playing with the base, and if you notice that there are spaces, but don't be concerned about that, because that's where these crumbs come into play. And I've already cut out some pieces. Whenever anything breaks, hold on to it, because you can still use it. And you're going to need it for another layer of graham cracker crumb crust. And that is pretty good for starters. And now what you need to do is start filling in where you see the spaces, because you don't want the chocolate pudding to go into the cracks. It softens it too much. That is pretty good. The next step is to take, and I'm going to set this aside, the next step is to take a bowl, and remember this, cold milk. Then you take instant chocolate pudding, and I will tell you, once I begin this process, what my preference is. But for this presentation, I am doing the instant chocolate pudding for 2 minutes. Now, ordinarily, I make this pie all the time with cook and serve chocolate pudding. It takes 5 minutes on the stove, and to me it has a much easier flow. I enjoy the consistency, but I thought where this was an instant chocolate pudding for 2 minutes, it would serve the purpose and you would get the idea. Now it is starting to thicken, now, and there's about a minute left. What we're going to do is make sure you wipe around the edges because it leaves little lumps, and you don't want those little lumps to show in the final end result. The next step is to take some type of a ladle or serving spoon, and I find that going from the outside in is the best approach because of all the little loose pieces on the outside. So I will show you how to do that in a minute or less. That, you can see, is getting thicker. And in 5 minutes it gets very thick, so you need to work fairly quickly. It takes 5 minutes for the cook and serve to cook on the stove. Okay. Now, just drip it on, and you can spread it. Here's my timer. You can spread it with a spatula, but get it on around the edges. And make sure you eyeball half the pudding because you need the other half for the top layer. What I do now is I smooth it with a spatula. And if you get it around the edges of the lip, don't be concerned. You can just wipe it at the end. Okay, and now when you put on the next layer, you don't have to be as fussy because leakage is not your concern. So you apply just a little bit more in the middle. And begin to lay your crackers once again on top. Again, the jigsaw puzzle effect. With this one, I also fill it in just to make sure that we have the whole pie covered. So that looks pretty good. Add a few crumbs. And the rest of your pudding. This will be covered by a delicious whipped cream topping. And when I say delicious, I prefer heavy whipped cream at all times. In moderation, I find if you have a little bit, it is absolutely delicious. And that's what I remember my mom doing. And we used to lick off the egg beaters, the whipped cream beaters, after she finished. And have just enough. And if you have a problem, just scrape the bowl, get as much as you can off of it. There, got another nice batch of pudding. And here we go. Now we're coming over to the whipped cream process. You take 1 cup of heavy cream, and as you begin beating it, you add in 3 tablespoons of confectionery sugar. One more thing I add that gives it durability, and that's what's called xanthan gum. Xanthum gum, and it can be found in the baking section at any supermarket. And what it does, it acts as a thickening agent. And all you need to do is add a pinch. And that will help prevent it from becoming watery. There are the beaters that I used to lick off. But anyway, now what we're going to do is take the whipped cream, and because this one is just completed and hasn't solidified yet, what we need to do is put this in the refrigerator for about a half an hour. So I'm going to set this aside, and I have one that is already completed and has been refrigerated. So that will make it cover a lot easier, otherwise the whipped cream could blend in to the pudding. This is the fun part, where once you have this smoothed out, you take your graham cracker crumbs and you decorate them over the top, and then place your cherries around. Now, I do cut my cherries in half. You can certainly choose to make whole cherries for decorations, but it is important that you take and pat them out before you apply them to the whipped cream, or else they'll get very runny. Also, on the graham cracker crumbs, I do put them through a strainer. I find that it's a lot easier to control the consistency. Some people might want to do it with their hands. That's certainly up to you. Now here again, I used 1 cup of the heavy cream. I do have extra whipped cream if I need it. I always make a little extra because you want it to really go around smoothly. This is the strainer I use. I know it's kind of large, but it does do the trick. And I take, very carefully, because already it starts to go through, shake it a little bit, go around the outer edges, And this way the larger pieces don't get caught onto the topping. You have a much nicer looking pie. And here again, you can make it a little thicker, you can make it a little thinner, but I do choose to let the whipped cream look come through. With the cherries, I wanted to show you, it's important to start where the stem was. So if you can just pat out your cherry, like so, and cut right down the middle, you'll get a nice even cherry. Again, right from the stem down, cut, and make sure you have patted it out. I already have some prepared, and you take about 7, evenly distributed around. And 1 for the middle. And there you have a delicious chocolate graham cracker pie. And only takes a few minutes. It can be eaten right away. And as a matter of fact, I do have a slice right here that I pre-cut because I just want to show you how simple and easy it is. It comes right off onto the fork and melts in your mouth. So I hope you try this. I hope you enjoy this. Thank you for joining me today, and see you next time for more delicious recipes from Glo's Kitchen. I'd like to show you how I make a Mocha Snow Ball cookie. I know right now that we're not inundated with snow this winter, and I thought this would refresh your memory as to what it did look like, and at least you can enjoy a tasty Mocha Snow Ball cookie. Very easy. And what I'm going to do for this is to remove my rings, because again, there is a rolling process, and I don't want the cookie mixture to get into my rings. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to go over to the blender, and we're going to mix 2 sticks of butter. And they're supposed to be softened, and the way you can tell if it's softened is press your finger into the butter, and if you see an indentation, you know you're okay. Usually it's only about a half an hour. I had this out a little bit longer. Take the butter, break it up a little bit too, because it makes it a lot easier to cream it. And then mix this with a half a cup of sugar. I have a 1/4 cup here, so I just wanted you to know I'll be doing this twice. So put them together, and make sure you have them locked in, and start the creaming process. Now while that's creaming, I'm going over here to get the dry ingredients ready. One and a half cups flour, 1/3 cup of baking cocoa, and 1 tablespoon of instant coffee granules. take and just lightly blend them together. You don't have to be too fussy about it. It'll all blend together in the mixer. Before you add this, you're going to take and add a teaspoon of vanilla to the cream mixture. Now, you need to slowly add this, or else you'll get it to come back up in your face. So very slowly add the powder. When it's completely blended, you're going to stir in a cup of chopped nuts. Either walnuts or pecans are fine. I love walnuts, so we're adding it in. Now take the mixture and place it in a bowl so that you can work with it. Make sure that it holds together. And then what you're going to do is take about enough for an inch and roll the ball and add it to the pan. Now I pre-prepared a few so that we could add them in as I show you more of the process. So I will put these 2 inches apart in an ungreased bake tray, and it's on 325 degree oven, 14 to 16 minutes. Now, something I would like to show you while it's baking, when you make these chocolate balls and roll them, it's very easy. I didn't have to apply any pressure, do anything different. It really is a wonderful texture. It's only 1.5 cups of flour. Now, some people are sensitive to nuts, and if you choose to make these balls without the nuts, what you need to do is add another 1/2 cup of flour. So do 2 cups of flour, same ingredients, and the only thing is there is a different process. You take the ball and you're going to have to press it into the palm of your hand because it falls apart a little more easily than these. And then you can roll it and they will be fine. But that's something, I know a lot of people are sensitive to nuts, and this is a chocolate cookie that you don't want to miss. So what I'd like to show you is also the process of decorating the cookies. Once they come out and they're placed on a rack, you need to let them cool for about 1 to 2 minutes. Then you're going to take a little strainer filled with confectioner sugar and try to have a tray or paper towel underneath the rack. It'll just make it easier for you for cleanup. And shake lightly side to side, and then if you want to get a thicker effect, you shake it up and down. And basically, there is your lovely chocolate mocha cookie. And of course I have a whole slew of them for people to enjoy. And I also have a tray of ready-made cookies. And as I said, these are absolute melt-aways. So enjoy. I am. Absolutely delicious. And I have a passion for whipped cream and nuts. So you'll be seeing a lot of desserts that include those ingredients. But thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again on Glow's Kitchen.